Welcome back to The Grave Doctor. I am continuing work on restoring fallen and broken grave monuments at Morley Cemetery in eastern Nebraska. On this map, the gray areas represent lots that were never used. The ones highlighted with the blue border are lots where I've restored markers. Today, we are still in the southern part of the cemetery, now going over to Lot 67 on the west. It was apparently purchased by Curtis Clay, but the only persons buried there are Robert and Ellen Clay. When I did a survey of the cemetery in February, this was one of the most discolored and disconnected monuments that I came across. By August, it had been cleaned up, but it was still broken. It was time to take care of that. I had by this time found the footstones for both Robert and Ellen and had set them up next to the monument. The spire part of the monument was so heavy that I could barely lift it from the ground. That and its height was a concern for me. This clearly was going to be a two-man job. For that reason, I recruited my friend Blake to help out. Robert Clay was born in England in 1826. Nothing is known about his family or upbringing. Ellen Pollock was born in Scotland in 1828 to Joseph and Elizabeth Pollock, one of a very large family. Robert and Ellen were married in England sometime before 1855. The date of their marriage and the circumstances of their immigration to the United States have not been documented. However, between 1855 and 1864, they were living in Illinois, where 4 children were born. By about 1867, the family had moved west to Nebraska, where Robert established a farm in Elkhorn Township in eastern Dodge County, just west of its border with Washington County. His farm was located in Township 17N, Range 9E, Section 10. Ellen's brother John Pollock also owned a farm in that section, while her brother Montgomery and her father Joseph each owned farms within a mile. After settling in Dodge County, Robert and Ellen welcomed their 5th and youngest child in 1868. Robert died on February 9, 1879, at the age of 52. The cause of his death is unknown. Ellen, then 51 years old, was left with 5 children ranging in age from 11 to 24. It is possible that one or more of her brothers helped manage the farm. At the time of the 1880 federal census, Ellen was still living on the family farm in eastern Dodge County with her children. In February 1886, when Ellen was 58 years old, she suffered another tragedy when her 3rd child, Martha Clay Close, died of an undocumented illness. Martha had married George Close only 5 years earlier. She was buried at Morley Cemetery. So working on the base of this here, I find that it actually has broken into a number of pieces, which are over here. The base itself is basically intact other than that. But that's a lot of pieces that I'm not going to bother putting back together. It's not going to affect the stability of it. Just 4 years after the loss of her daughter Martha, the Fremont Tribune reported on September 17, 1890 in a brief notice that Ellen Clay, who had been living on the Pollock farm, although it did not specify which one, had died 2 days earlier on September 15, 1890. She was 62 years old. The newspaper stated that she would be buried in Arlington, Nebraska. However, as Arlington Cemetery records do not include a record of her burial, she was almost certainly buried at Morley Cemetery beside her husband, Robert. If this was indeed where she was buried, however, her name was never added to his grave marker. At this point in the resetting of this monument, we are working on stabilizing and leveling the base. Having completed that, we returned the dirt to its position around the base. At this point, it was time to clean the top of the base and the bottom of the plinth in order to start the reassembly. I have applied the Prattley epoxy putty to the top of the base, and the plinth is ready to attach to it. The plinth, which we are raising at this point, weighs about 244 pounds. It does have the name Clay written on the side of it. With it properly attached and rotated, I now take monument setting compound and place it in all the gaps to keep water from getting inside of the space. The next part to prepare was the marble die. This section alone weighed 328 pounds, and it is where the information was engraved with Robert's name, date of death, and age. I noticed here that the die was tilted very slightly, and I needed to place a few pieces of lead strips in that left side to rebalance it. Now, when we were disassembling this monument, the die came apart from the plinth. They had been held together by an iron rod. When lifting it off, that old rusted rod had snapped. As can happen with these, time and deterioration can cause the rod to expand, and this had caused a little of the front of the marble die to fracture off and become lost. Using the epoxy putty should provide an adequate connection, and sealing it with the monument setting compound helped keep water out of the space to avoid further damage from that rod. It was this point that was potentially the most difficult part of the repair. My tripod is made of 10-foot long 2x4s. Because they are set up in an angled fashion, already it is lower than 10 feet in height. After hanging the hoist from it, including the hook that attaches to the straps, there is an additional loss of height. To get the spire lifted up on top of the die safely was going to be a delicate operation. I was able to measure a partial weight of the spire, but it was not entirely accurate as it was hanging right against the die. The weight I did measure was about 340 pounds. It is also necessary to be careful of the positioning of the tripod and hoist in a situation like this. If what is being lifted is too far off center, it can cause the tripod to tip over. When we lifted the spire with the hoist as high as possible, we found that its bottom, with the rod still protruding, was still a couple of inches below the top of the die. That meant Blake and I had to carefully lift the spire by hand for those final 2 inches. At least the bottom of the spire was now resting on top of the die. The hoist was still attached, so there was no danger of it falling. But we weren't finished. We still had to deal with that metal rod protruding about 3 inches from the bottom of the spire. To solve the problem, I grabbed my supply of 2x4s. We tilted the spire just enough to slide a piece in on each side of the rod, between the die and the spire. We repeated the process, adding another 2x4 on each side. Along with the foam kneeling pad I'd used to protect the stone from scraping against the die, this raised the spire just enough to clear the rod. Now it was possible to carefully slide the bottom of the spire so that the rod was positioned directly over the hole on top of the die. Then we reversed the process, carefully removing a 2x4 from each side one at a time until both pairs as well as the foam pad had been removed. At this point, I replaced the half-inch spacer blocks I usually use, also replaced the epoxy putty that had been knocked off in the struggle, and completed the repair as normal. I kept the straps attached to the spire just to ensure that this 340-pound piece of stone would not tip over before I was done. The final result was a monument that was 6 foot 11 inches tall and was upright and more secure than it had been for many years. A few days later, my wife Kim came out with me and thoroughly cleaned the monument. The orange-brown discoloration seen here is the biological solution taking effect. Here we are a couple weeks later, after having cleaned the stone and given some time for that to work. And I've set up the footstones for Robert and his wife. His to the left, hers to the right. Hers was longer, his was not. And we can see now better this engraving up here. It says, "Farewell, we shall meet again." Down below, Robert Clay, born in Lincolnshire, England, died February 9th, 1879. And then below that, the marble deteriorated and it's less legible. I have filled in the big gap there with some epoxy and marble aggregate to keep water out so it doesn't split further. With some effort at interpreting the engravings that had not been damaged, I determined that it indicated that Robert was 52 years old at the time of death. The number of months is completely gone. I could read the start and end of each line of his epitaph. It was from a hymn written by Horatius Bonar and published in 1846. The part reads, "I heard the voice of Jesus say, 'Come unto me and rest. Lay down, thou weary one, lay down, thy head upon my breast.'" And so now we have the before and after for this grave monument for Robert Clay and his wife Ellen. I'll include in the description the products I use in doing these restorations and where to find them. Thanks for watching this restoration. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with others who enjoy cemetery preservation and restoration. Join me, the Grave Doctor, next time for another project at Morley Cemetery.